Hey, it's me, Steve WB, and welcome back to my channel. And today we are talking about the 3 modes on the DJI Osmo Pocket. Okay, so let's get into this little video that I'm going to make about the Osmo Pocket and the 3 modes. Now recently, if you might have seen a previous video that I made that if you're watching this video, I've already taken it down. But what the video was about was when to not use follow mode, because I was under the impression, or I thought, and I've used this thing for over a year, and I thought that when it was under follow mode was the only time that the active track worked. So the video was about don't use follow mode because it will fail you. Well, let me tell you, do your research before you put a video out there, because a friend on Reddit, he's very good obviously with his Osmo Pocket, and he brought to my attention, he had said, hey, you know, it's not follow mode that you have problems with, it's the active track, and you should correct your video. And I kind of made a statement like, well, you know, I've had this thing for a year and it doesn't have active track, it's just actually a follow mode. Active track is only on a drone. And he came back, and I even finished the statement by saying, like, you know, do you even have an Osmo Pocket? Well, needless to say, after saying all that stuff on Reddit, I had to go back and eat my words because I did some research, and there actually is active track and face track under follow mode, and it also works under tilt mode, and, you know, several other modes too. I don't know exactly all the modes. I'm not going to say that I do. I had to take the old video down, and now I'm making this video to replace that video. And I want to thank Ozpeter, it's O-Z-P-E-T-E-R on Reddit, for bringing that to my attention and helping me stop myself from looking so much like a fool. You know, what can I say? I was wrong. You were right. My apologies and thank you. Okay, so if you have an Osmo Pocket, when you turn it on, if you want to use this little camera, in which I'll probably do something up close, but if you scroll up, it brings up a little screen, and on the bottom right hand corner you can switch between the modes of the Osmo Pocket. And you have FPV, which is first person view, you have follow mode, and you have tilt locked. Okay, I'm going to start off with tilt locked. What tilt lock does is it will keep this camera facing forward at all time. I don't know if you can see it, but as I rotate this handle, the camera is looking this way, it's not moving. So if you're running, walking, stepping, jogging, the tilt is not going to change. It locks the tilt on the horizon, and that actually becomes a very handy little tool, because, you know, some people will mount them on drones in tilt lock position, and it'll actually function kind of like a FPV camera on a drone, and it's just a really cool little function, and it takes most of the bounce out of your step when you're walking. So that's what tilt lock does. Okay, the next mode we're going to look at after tilt lock, you have FPV mode, and the way the website for DJI displays this is it gives you some stabilization, but basically the camera goes wherever you point it. You can point it up, you can point it down, and all the gimbal does like a smooth transition, or, you know, take some of the jitter out of the movements. It's not sudden, you know, like if it was fixed and you move, it's just like a sudden jerk. But with the gimbal, it kind of speeds it up and slows it down, and still stabilizes the footage a good bit. But like on the DJI website, if you're riding a roller coaster, it gives you the ability to capture, you know, footage whatever position you're in. It's like your eyes, you know, however you could turn your head, or however you're riding, or however you're going, is how it's going to capture. So it's not the most stable setting, but it also has its purposes. Now, the last mode that I'm going to talk about is the infamous follow mode that I had completely misunderstood. And when you put it in follow mode, as you can tell, it kind of, you know, it locks on the horizon as well. If you can tell, as I lean it, it's locked on the horizon. But when I go down, it still goes down. So the gimbal's working, but it allows you to point it in whatever direction that you want to. Unlike tilt lock, it always looks forward. Well, this, you can actually look at the ground and look at the sky, but you still have the effect of the gimbal. But what's different with the follow mode is you can actually tap the screen like lock on an object, and you double tap it, and I just locked onto this other gimbal here. So I don't know if you can tell, but as I move the camera around, it's going to follow that gimbal. And this is what my original video was on, and I'm going to go ahead and touch on that subject as well. In the video I had stated that I record my kids a lot, and I would try to lock on one of the kids. Well, if that kid took off running, the gimbal would turn to follow that kid, and then it would lose the subject. And once it lost subject, it would just point at the ground, and then you're having to recenter, and you're losing your shot, or you're losing action over here. And that's why I'd switched to first-person views so much, because I was able to, you know, the kids are everywhere. I mean, if you've ever filmed 3 of them at once, you know what I'm talking about. But this is the flaw that I was talking about in the first video. Like I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to lock on to this gimbal right here. And as I come around, you can see the camera is on it. But once it goes out of frame, okay, like right there, it just lost subject. Look where the camera's at. It's still looking over here for the subject. And now I'm trying to get it back on the subject. And because it lost the subject, it's not locking back on there, even after it's come back into frame. So that's the problem I was having. I'm gonna recenter this. I would lock onto one of the children, and they would take off running, and they're gone. And now the Osmo Pocket is lost, and I'm trying to come over here. You know what I mean? I'm trying to find the child, and the gimbal's doing like this, so then I'm trying to recenter it, and it just makes for a mess. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you wouldn't want to use active track mode in that instance, because if you lose the subject, wherever the camera loses its subject is where it still points to. And it can cause you to lose some action. So just use the right mode for whatever you're filming. Okay, so that's going to explain the 3 modes of the Osmo Pocket. In case you were wondering, this is the Flaw G6 gimbal that I just got in. And I actually have done a unboxing on this, and I've also done just a side-by-side comparison test with 4 different cameras, including the Osmo Pocket on top of this, on top of a 4th axis stabilizer, just for fun. So it's a cool little video. Check that one out. And I want to say thank you to OzPeter for pointing out my flaws and making me take down that bad video with the incorrect information. As you know, this channel, if you're watching this video anytime in January of 2020, it's a brand new channel. I'm just now kicking it off. Mistakes are going to be made, but it's not a bad thing if you make mistakes. It's a bad thing if you're stubborn about it and you refuse to fix them. So thank you again. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve WB, and I'm out.